What happens when your backup quarterback plays so well that he transforms from insurance policy to valuable trade asset overnight? When the player you signed to a massive contract becomes expendable before he even returns from injury? Welcome to the cold, calculated world of NFL roster management, where loyalty takes a backseat to opportunity and the San Francisco 49ers are sitting on a gold mine they might be ready to cash in. Let's rewind to when Mac Jones arrived in San Francisco. This was the former first-round pick who'd flamed out spectacularly in New England, a quarterback whose career trajectory had nosedived so dramatically that he became the poster child for Patriots' post-Brady dysfunction. The 49ers picked him up as organizational depth, a veteran safety net in case Brock Purdy went down. Nobody expected fireworks. Nobody expected relevance. And certainly nobody expected Jones to resurrect his career so convincingly that he'd become one of the hottest trade chips in the upcoming offseason market. But that's exactly what happened. When Purdy suffered a turf toe injury that sidelined him from week 4 onward, Jones stepped into the breach and didn't just hold down the fort, he thrived. He ran Kyle Shanahan's offense with precision, made smart decisions, protected the football, and most importantly, kept the 49ers competitive in a brutally tough NFC West. The whispers started immediately. Could Jones actually challenge Purdy for the starting job? Was San Francisco witnessing a genuine quarterback controversy? Purdy silenced those whispers emphatically in Week 11, carving up the Arizona Cardinals for 3 touchdowns in a dominant 41-22 victory that reasserted his status as QB1. But here's the beautiful irony for the 49ers front office. Jones playing well enough to spark controversy made him exponentially more valuable on the trade market. He proved he's not just a capable backup, he's a legitimate starting caliber quarterback who can execute a sophisticated offensive system at a high level. According to Matt Barrows of The Athletic, one of the most plugged-in reporters covering the 49ers, Jones could command serious compensation in a trade. Barrows points to the Raiders' acquisition of Geno Smith earlier this year as a baseline, noting that Seattle extracted a late third-round pick for the veteran quarterback. But Barrows believes Jones could fetch significantly more, a second-round pick. Why the premium? Context matters enormously in the quarterback market. If the 2026 draft class is weak at the position, and early evaluations suggest it might be, teams desperate for quarterback stability will pay a premium for proven commodities. Jones isn't just a theoretical prospect anymore. He's got recent tape showing he can win games in one of the NFL's most complex offensive systems. That's gold to a quarterback-needy franchise. Think about the teams that could be in the market. The Las Vegas Raiders are perpetually searching for answers at the position. The Tennessee Titans might be ready to move on from their current situation. The New York Giants could be looking for a bridge quarterback if they draft a rookie. The Cleveland Browns might want an upgrade. Any of these franchises could view Jones as either a stopgap solution or a legitimate long-term answer, depending on their philosophy. The bidding war scenario is what could drive Jones' value into second-round territory. If multiple teams get into a competitive situation, the price escalates quickly. And given Jones' age, he's still just 26 years old, and his relatively team-friendly contract situation, he represents both immediate help and long-term potential. That's a rare combination in the quarterback market. Here's where it gets fascinating from San Francisco's perspective. On one hand, you have a backup quarterback whose value will likely never be higher. Jones just demonstrated he can keep a championship-caliber team afloat during an extended absence of the starter. He's proven he's young enough to have upside, and he's about to enter a market that might be starved for quarterback options. The smart business move seems obvious. Maximize his trade value and recoup significant draft capital. On the other hand, the 49ers just lived through exactly why you need a quality backup quarterback. Purdy's turf toe injury kept him out for 7 weeks. What if he gets hurt again? What if the injury bug that's plagued this franchise for years strikes again at the most critical position? Trading Jones means going back to square one in terms of backup quarterback quality, potentially leaving the team vulnerable if disaster strikes. This is the eternal tension in NFL roster construction. Asset maximization versus risk mitigation. Do you cash in the valuable chip while it's hot, or do you hold on to the insurance policy that just proved its worth? There's no objectively correct answer. It depends on your risk tolerance, your evaluation of Purdy's durability, and your confidence in finding adequate backup quarterback play through other avenues. My read? The 49ers will absolutely explore the trade market for Jones. If someone offers that second-round pick, it becomes almost impossible to turn down. Second-round picks are premium assets that can land starting-caliber players at positions of need. And let's be honest, as good as Jones played, Brock Purdy is the franchise quarterback. When healthy, there's no controversy. Purdy's performance against Arizona reminded everyone why he's the guy. So, if you can turn your backup into a second-round pick, you do it and figure out the backup situation later. Now let's pivot to an even more complicated situation. Brandon Aiyuk. The star wide receiver suffered a devastating knee injury in Week 7 of last season, a torn ACL and MCL that's kept him sidelined through the first 11 weeks of the season. He's working his way back, but there's no concrete timetable for his return. And already, trade speculation is swirling. Here's why this situation is so thorny. The 49ers just signed Aiyuk to a 4-year, $120 million extension prior to the 2024 season. That's elite wide receiver money, the kind of contract you give to a cornerstone player you're building around. But Aiyuk hasn't played a snap under that new deal. He got paid, then got hurt, and now the 49ers are stuck in roster purgatory, carrying a massive contract for a player who isn't contributing. From a pure salary cap perspective, moving Aiyuk would provide relief. That $120 million commitment is significant, and if the 49ers believe they can allocate those resources more efficiently elsewhere, a trade makes financial sense. But as Barrows correctly notes, executing such a trade is incredibly complicated. First, there's the injury factor. Aiyuk is still rehabbing from a serious knee injury. Any team trading for him is taking on substantial medical risk. What if he's not the same player when he returns? What if the knee doesn't hold up? What if his explosiveness, the very trait that made him elite, is diminished? These are legitimate concerns that will suppress his trade value. Second, there's the contract. A team trading for Aiyuk would be taking on a massive financial commitment for a player who hasn't proven he can return to form post-injury. That's a tough sell to ownership and fan bases. You're essentially asking another franchise to gamble $120 million on a rehabilitation project. The number of teams willing to make that bet is limited. Barrows mentions two intriguing possibilities: the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Both teams showed interest in Aiyuk 15 months ago when trade rumors first surfaced. Both teams are desperate for wide receiver help. And both teams have the financial flexibility to absorb a big contract if they believe the upside is there. Makes a ton of sense. The Steelers have been searching for a true WR1 since the Antonio Brown era imploded. They've cycled through various options without finding a definitive answer. George Pickens shows flashes but lacks consistency. If Pittsburgh believes Aiyuk can return to his 2023 form, when he was one of the most dynamic receivers in football, they might be willing to roll the dice. The Steelers are also in win-now mode with their current roster construction, making a high-risk, high-reward move more palatable. Cleveland is equally desperate. The Browns' wide receiver room has been a disaster for years. They've invested draft capital and free agent dollars without finding solutions. Aiyuk would instantly become their best receiver if he returns healthy. And given Cleveland's massive investment in Deshaun Watson at quarterback, a move that's backfired spectacularly, they need to surround him with elite talent to justify the decision. Aiyuk could be that piece. But here's the reality check. Barrows estimates Aiyuk might fetch an early day 3 pick, meaning a 4th-round selection. That's a far cry from the premium compensation you'd expect for a player who just signed a $120 million contract. It's a reflection of the uncertainty surrounding his medical status and the financial burden any acquiring team would assume. Let's examine San Francisco's current wide receiver situation. Deebo Samuel remains the unquestioned alpha, a versatile weapon who can line up anywhere and create mismatches. Jawan Jennings has emerged as a reliable possession receiver who moves the chains and makes contested catches. Rookie Ricky Pearsall has shown flashes of potential when healthy. But beyond that trio, the depth gets shaky quickly. If the 49ers trade Aiyuk, they're betting that this current group, plus whatever they can add through the draft or free agency, is sufficient to maintain their offensive firepower. That's a significant gamble. Aiyuk, when healthy, is a game-changing talent. He stretches the field vertically, creates separation in his routes, and provides a legitimate downfield threat that defenses must respect. Removing that element from the offense could fundamentally alter how defenses approach San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan's offense is predicated on versatility and multiple threats. You need weapons who can win one-on-one matchups, who can take the top off defenses, who can create explosive plays. Aiyuk provides all of that. Trading him means either finding a replacement with similar skills or adjusting the offensive philosophy to compensate for his absence. Neither option is simple. If the 49ers are serious about exploring trades for both Jones and Aiyuk, the timeline matters enormously. Jones' market will heat up during the offseason, likely peaking around the NFL Combine and free agency period when quarterback-needy teams are making their moves. That's when desperation sets in, when franchises start overpaying for solutions at the position. The 49ers would be smart to let that market develop fully before committing to a deal. Aiyuk's situation is more fluid. If he returns this season and looks healthy, his trade value increases significantly. Actual game tape showing he's recovered from the knee injury would alleviate concerns and potentially drive up compensation. But if he doesn't return this season, or if he returns and looks diminished, his value plummets. The 49ers might be forced to hold on to him simply because no reasonable trade market exists. There's also the playoff factor to consider. If San Francisco makes a deep postseason run, the calculus changes. Success validates the current roster construction and might make the front office more hesitant to break up a winning formula. Conversely, if the 49ers flame out early or miss the playoffs entirely, it could accelerate the desire to shake things up and recoup assets. What we're really discussing here is the fundamental challenge of building a sustainable winner in the modern NFL. The salary cap forces difficult decisions. You can't keep everyone. You can't pay everyone. At some point, you have to make ruthless choices about which players are truly essential and which ones, no matter how talented, are expendable. The 49ers are facing this reality with both Jones and Aiyuk. Jones is a luxury item, a high-quality backup at the most important position. But luxuries are expensive, and if you can convert that luxury into draft capital that addresses other needs, you do it. Aiyuk is a different beast, a highly paid player who isn't producing due to injury. If you can move that contract and reallocate the resources, it might be the smart long-term play, even if it stings in the short term. This is where elite front offices separate themselves from mediocre ones. The great general managers make the tough calls before they're forced to. They identify opportunities to maximize value, even when it means parting with popular or talented players. They think 3 moves ahead, understanding that today's trade sets up tomorrow's roster flexibility. If I'm running the 49ers front office, here's my approach on Mac Jones. Absolutely explore the trade market aggressively. If someone offers a second-round pick, you take it and run. Jones proved his value, but Brock Purdy is your franchise quarterback. You can find adequate backup quarterback play through cheaper avenues: veteran free agents, late-round draft picks, practice squad development. Converting Jones into premium draft capital is too good an opportunity to pass up, especially if you believe Purdy's turf toe injury was a one-off issue rather than a chronic concern. On Brandon Aiyuk, this one's trickier. If he returns this season and looks healthy, you hold him through the playoffs and reassess in the offseason. A healthy Aiyuk makes you a better team, period. But if he doesn't return, or if he returns and looks compromised, you explore trades aggressively. Even a 4th-round pick provides value, And shedding that contract creates flexibility. The key is not forcing it. Let the market come to you, but be open to moving him if the right situation presents itself. The 49ers are at a crossroads. They have assets that other teams covet, and they have an opportunity to reshape their roster for sustained success. The question is whether they have the courage to make the hard decisions to prioritize long-term flexibility over short-term sentiment. One thing's certain, this offseason will be fascinating to watch. What's your take? Should the 49ers cash in on Mac Jones while his value is sky high, or is keeping quality backup quarterback play too important to sacrifice? And what about Aiyuk? Is he untouchable despite the injury concerns, or should San Francisco cut bait and move on? Drop your thoughts in comments below, and smash that like button if you want more insider analysis on the moves that could define the 49ers' future.